This is a story about colonial violence. Like many places across the globe in North America and in Canada, there was a time when the objectification of Indigenous people led settlers to desecrate graves, to take our ancestors' human remains from those graves, along with the items that were interned with them by their family as they lovingly buried them, with the expectation that they would always stay there. At the very beginning of the founding of the university, this practice was still active, and some of those ancestors came to the University of Manitoba. That was over 100 years ago. They've been there all this time.
In 2019, a former student spoke to the new head of the Department of Anthropology and let him know that there were Indigenous ancestors and belongings in the archaeology labs that needed to be repatriated, that there was no community engagement for.
When that person came forward and said, "What can we do about it?" the answer was, we need to ask elders, knowledge keepers, Indigenous grandmothers or grandfathers to help us.
That was early 2021, and so we've been meeting monthly since, and they have really guided everything that we've done.
You know, we knew that it was going to take first a lot of heartfelt work that would go into it, and it would also need ceremony.
So then we started doing the process of getting together with the anthropology department. We shared the teachings with them, you know, and so they started learning.
We've also developed a language around speaking about human remains. We're calling them ancestors.
We want the way that they're going to be taken care of as we work towards return and reburial. It has to change. It has to be practices that are respectful.
And so we had a pipe ceremony over in the anthropology department, and I could really feel the ancestors that were lying there. I could really feel the energy of them, and there's children there as well. And some of these ancestors are thousands of thousands years old. And it was very emotional for me because I could feel them.
I asked for forgiveness from them, those spirits, because these people, they didn't know how to deal with those remains. So we asked for forgiveness.
So the pipe ceremony was done. We feasted, and they put a plate out for the ancestors, just to let them know that this is what we're going to be doing and how to do that. And I said, you have to look after them the way you look after your own loved ones.
They wanted the ancestors to be moved into some place that would be private, that no one would have access to, and that a place was renovated and made really beautiful. And every step of the way, we have brought Indigenous community in to help. So Larry Brass, we knew that he could work with wood, and we knew that this work was really important to him, and we were able to ask him to help us to make caskets for the ancestors.
The process of doing this work, especially having all of that time by myself, working with the medicines and working with the wood, but also knowing the ancestors that for some of them have been passed away for thousands of years. I often look back and think about what type of life they lived, what they were doing thousands and thousands of years ago, what they ate, who they lived their life with. Through that process, purpose was given to me in supporting them really in going home. And so that is a ceremony in of itself. To be a part of that process and to support them is a great honor, and to do it in the right way is what we're doing.
We asked Chantel Daniels, who agreed to come up with the design for the star blankets. Gail Sinclair came in and painted beautiful murals on the wall inside, we call it a temporary resting room.
Most of my work that I've ever done in my life is very, very spiritual. And being a spiritual artist, I feel like I'm very proud to be here as a helper for them. And I'm very happy that they will be going to a very beautiful place.
And so many people came together on one day, and all the ancestors were moved in that way, with ceremony, with prayer, with songs, with food offerings, and in a really reverent and beautiful way.
What stays in my heart most is having a song sung for those ancestors, those bones that we were carrying back, and then knowing that the boxes that we were carrying contains those bones. And it's bringing tears to my eyes because I feel like we were doing something to respect them, finally, after how many years they'd been in storage. And now they're being brought to a beautiful resting place that was created for them, waiting now for their ancestors from their communities to come and retrieve them and take them back to the community so that they could have their proper ceremonies.
I would say it's like we're walking on a journey. The journey and the goal is for the ancestors to be returned to Mother Earth. Also, the process of doing that, it has potential to provide healing, not just us as Indigenous people to recover from the violence that was perpetrated towards us, but it's also an opportunity for healing for non-Indigenous people to right a wrong. And those elders, they said, we need to ask the university to write a policy that makes a commitment to never participate in this kind of practice ever again, and also to outline how the process of returning the sovereignty of communities to say how their ancestors will be reburied and what that will look like.
Our Indigenous way of doing things is a very spiritual way. It's not just that you just make policies and design them and hope that people can use them, it's more than that.
What we did was we called on community members. We came up with a document that we felt really had what the community wanted and felt it needed to be in there.
To me, having that policy in place, it changes the way the university functions. It fundamentally changes how they view a piece of their history and how they're moving forward.
Because the council had also suggested that the university needed to make a public apology, we organized it so that that apology could happen on the day that the policy came into force. In June 2024, the day began with a pipe ceremony. People from community came, and the president stood in front of a large crowd and made a public apology to First Nations, Inuit, and Métis people.
For generations, colonial mindsets at our university have harmed and caused immense pain to First Nations, Inuit, and Métis people. Our historical members justified their shameful and degrading behavior in the name of science and education. Today, we begin by atoning for these historic failures. We apologize for these past wrongs. We are sorry.
To see the institution stand up and publicly acknowledge what had been done, speak the truth from the perspective of that we had done wrong to Indigenous people and that we were on the path to making that right. And that commitment coming from the highest levels of the institution was, for me, such a poignant moment. And I think all institutions have the responsibility to do that, the responsibility to acknowledge how they contributed to this disrespect to Indigenous ancestors that came into their possession, and how we did not get consent from community.
Once the policy came into force, then the next part of the journey is to work on return.
Well, the next step is continuing to identify where the ancestors are from, making the connections to those communities, and if the communities are willing to take care of the ancestors in their own way.
The ones that will be taken back to the community, it'll be up to the community and on how they bury their loved ones.
We know that repatriation for us, it sort of means that what you're working with really should be returned to whom they belong. But then there's sometimes you don't know who they belong to. So what do we do with those that we can't repatriate? And so we have to look at rematriation then, to return remains and artifacts to Mother Earth.
Many of the ancestors who were brought to the university and who are here, there is no clear affiliation with one specific contemporary First Nation. If someone lived 2,000 years ago, they're going to be ancestors to many, many nations. And so the decision for CARE is to bring everyone together so we could discuss where they should be respectfully reburied and in what way. We had our first repatriation. And it was a nation who has repatriated their ancestors from many different places around the world.
So tomorrow, we take home 4 of our ancestors from this institution. And I want to, again, raise my hands to the university for the good work that you are doing and that you're going to do. Congratulations to you on taking this big, bold step.
They said they felt different here. They were treated differently here. Their ancestors had been treated differently here. And so I felt like that nation who came and brought their ancestors home, right after that apology, that was an indication that things were moving in a good way.
We share things so that more people can learn not only what happened, but also can we be an example for other universities and museums?
This is history. The true teaching of our ancestry here and what we're doing, you know, and we have to continue working in a good way to teach others that we need to respect one another. And once those ancestors are put back into ground, they're going to be resting again. You know, so this is the work that we were called to do.
We call upon our ancestors to give us the strength that we need to move forward on some of the things, to give us strength in our personal daily lives. And now we're looking after them in a spiritual way, in the best way we know how. This is very important work. It was for me, and it was, I'm sure, for everyone that was involved.
We stopped one form of colonial violence. Now is the time for us to heal from what's happened. And we do that by coming together. We come together as First Nations, Inuit, and Métis people. We come together with non-Indigenous people, working together. That's how we heal.